Right. Good evening. I call this public meeting of the North Clackamas School District Board of Directors to order on Thursday, January 25th at 6:31 p.m. I would like to remind our community that the purpose of our board meetings is to conduct the business of the district first and for everyone to learn about the district in a safe and respectful manner. This evening, I will begin by expressing our profound sense of gratitude. We recognize the immense challenges that the recent ice storm imposed on our community, impacting the lives of many. Our facilities teams, communication teams, and many other staff work tirelessly to ensure our schools remain safe and our community remained well informed. And sadly, we also mourn the tragic loss of a high school student during the storm. Our hearts go out to the student's family and the school community. As we go through these tough times together, let's remember and be thankful for the caring, resilient, and united spirit in our North Clackamas Schools community. And first on our agenda is community comments. Community comments are an opportunity for our community to share their ideas and opinions with the board. Input is valued and welcomed. It is our duty to keep it safe and respectful for everyone, students, staff, and our community. This is not a time for discussion or debate. If you have materials for the board, please give them to the board secretary, who will then distribute them to the board members after the meeting. Letters to the board are always welcome, and each of us reads the input. Requests for information should be requested as outlined in policy KBA-AR. Any individual desiring to speak will have indicated their desire prior to the board meeting. An individual with a disability will be given an equal opportunity to participate in board meetings. This may include someone speaking on their behalf if their disability or other medical needs limit their ability to attend in person. Board policy also speaks to accommodations available. A speaker will be required to give their name, city of residence, and the group, if any, that is represented. If there are more patrons desiring to present comments than time allotted, the board chair has the authority to reduce presentation time for the individual speakers or institute a prioritization process with first priority to students and city of residence. Speakers may offer objective criticisms of district operations and programs that are of a concern to them. The board is restricted from hearing and will not consider complaints regarding any individual staff member or person connected with the district. Comments that make a staff member identifiable to the public, even without their specific name, violate the policy. As an organization centered around youth and their positive development, all speakers will model respectful public comment and be mindful of civil discourse. We will keep the order of speakers announced by the chair. Tonight, comments regarding Early Literacy Success Grant as required by Oregon Department of Education will be prioritized. Seeing none, I will follow our usual order with comments from students first.
Chair Benaloga.
Yes.
Before we move on, would you like mentioning the camera situation?
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you for that. It's right here. For those of you who are viewing the live stream tonight or a recording at a later time, we apologize that you are unable to see a camera angle that shows our presenters. We are experiencing technical difficulties with the cameras, and this evening the video will only show a view of the board members. Thank you for your patience and understanding. All right. Thank you for that reminder. All right. And we have Kylie signed up to speak. So if you could welcome Michael, I'm assuming you're going to speak on her behalf. State your name, city of residence, and any group, and then the clock will begin.
Also, before I get started, I noticed you added some more rules about the information, requesting information. Is that correct? That's tonight? You added that?
The
Special requests for information? I hadn't heard that before.
Yes, we have been saying that each meeting. That's board policy.
All right. My wife thought it was new, so.
No.
Okay, Michael, talking for my daughter Kylie, Oak Grove. Okay. I sent an email to the superintendent, director of high schools, and district manager, business manager, and requesting a link to a calendar or schedule the district follows, detailing what the superintendent described in so many words to another district father who I've met as national months, weeks we recognize, including people groups. I also requested a list of identities they allow to be celebrated on the walls of classrooms, since both of these have been referred to by district personnel as if there is a guideline they go by. You would think both of these would be readily available on the district website and easily linked to. I did not receive any such calendar or list. Instead of simply emailing them to me, they insisted I go through a public records request first. I think I know why. They are stalling because these lists are not for public consumption, as they change all the time to mirror whatever the progressive bully activists demand, or because these lists don't actually exist at all. And it's made up on the spot. Also, the district probably wants to buy time to run it through legal to see how they can write or edit some new rules so they don't have to allow any conservative identities and causes. I've been asking for this ever since I started speaking. Because, of course, that could cause an uproar with the activist bullies. Look, they counted on conservatives giving up and shutting up. We are not going away. We know how your favorite activist bully teacher, who is a friend to many of you, feels about conservatives. I remind you, and I still, every time I see this shot that she posted, I had a student posted that, you guys would have expelled the student, would have had the police investigate, but she posts that and you do nothing. It still amazes me. Mocking and making light of Christians and conservatives being shot at a Christian public or Christian school. I mean, where's the concern with guns? I have read your bio. You ran on the fact that against gun violence because of a situation with your brother. And I understand, I can sympathize with that. But you do nothing about this. You should speak up. It seems you feel the same way. I don't know how I'm supposed to think anything else based on your lack of action regarding our concerns. So look, if you don't want to honor conservative students and their families, who, by the way, make up more of your enrollment than you realize, then give us the education freedom and funds so we can find a school that does honor and respect our kids. You have at best gotten away with ignoring conservative-minded students and families' concerns and identities, and at worst, been openly hostile. Oak Grove, Michael Corbus. You've been hostile to conservative-minded students and families for too long, and it needs to end now. Either give us education freedom or honor our causes and identities with special months, weeks, days, like you do for progressive ones, and put our identities on the walls of classrooms also, or get rid of all identities in special weeks, months, days that inform some students they are seen and heard, and inform others they are wrong and bigoted. That father last week really brought that out good. That the ones you have up that you allow, tell other students you're wrong and you're a hateful person and you need to change. This would be the best for all and most inclusive. And you guys love inclusivity until it involves conservatives, it seems to me. All causes and identities honored or none honored. That is the real diverse, equitable, and inclusive thing to do. No more fake diversity, equity, and inclusion. We want real inclusion for all students and families, including those who identify as conservatives now. And once again, I say to you, the school, I had a special needs teacher when during the pandemic, we had my son, we have a big backyard. My son had a BB gun. He walked by the video that we had opened up for my daughter who couldn't receive education because she doesn't speak. She's nonverbal. He walked by with a BB gun and the guy nearly had a heart attack. Okay? on video at my home. But this gets nothing. Look at it. Look at it. It gets nothing. And she's a friend of yours. She helped many of you get elected. That's disgusting. You know it. You need to take action on that alone. Set aside what she did with the mandatory reporter status. You know, it's disgusting. Anyway, I was going to talk about a slur update because some of your most fervent supporters, and these are not nice people. I'll just tell you that right now. They throw around names. They call me a Christian nationalist for many times. But recently they switched. They started calling me a Christo-fascist for simply wanting conservatives to be included. Also, they are calling me an old white man. You two guys and the other guy. Aren't we all that? Could we all be classified that? Is that a way? Do we not get to speak? And if that's true, maybe you guys should quit the school board. Maybe so. I don't understand. You guys have double standards. It's
The views and opinions expressed during community comment are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of the North Clackamas School District Board of Directors. The letters we received since the last meeting also consist of a concerned parent asking questions about how we were moving forward with finals, given our extended week off in the ice last week. All right. So our native land acknowledgement, Director Way will lead the acknowledgement this evening.
We acknowledge the land on which we sit and which we call the North Clackamas School District rests on the traditional and indigenous lands and village sites of the native peoples of the Kalapuya, Chinook, Malala, and the Clackamas. We take this opportunity to offer gratitude for the ability to learn, work, and be a community on this land, and we offer thanks to the original caretakers of this region. We recognize the historic policies of colonization, genocide, relocation, and assimilation that affected Indigenous and Native families, both past and present, and that will affect those in the future, and honor the resilience and revitalization of our Indigenous and Native communities. We pay respect to our elders, both past and present, who have been the stewards of this land throughout the generations.
Thank you. Our flag salute. Let's please rise. And Director Dobson, will you lead the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag tonight?
I pledge allegiance to the
The flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. In the board packet, you will find the minutes of the January 11th, 2024 meeting of the North Clackamas School District Board of Directors. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Bauer, second.
Excellent. It's been properly moved by Director McVeigh and seconded by Director Bauer. Is there any discussion? I will call for a vote on the motion. All those in favor, aye. Aye. All those opposed? The motion passes with a vote of 6-0. Oh, I'm sorry. How am I going to see? What you're watching, Glenn? Okay, thank you, Ms. Collingwood. So 7-0. So thank you. I will look to you for Glenn's vote. Thank you. And our consent agenda includes employment changes and policy revisions. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes employment changes and policy revisions.
Is there a second?
Bauer, second.
Is there any discussion? It's been properly moved by Director Way and seconded by Director Bauer. Let's call for a vote on the motion. All those in favor, aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes with a vote of 7-0. Thank you. All right, next on the agenda is Black African American History Month proclamation. Director Bauer will begin reading the proclamation tonight.
Thank you, Chair Binaloga. Whereas each year the United States observes Black African American History Month by celebrating the culture, heritage, and countless contributions of Black African Americans to our nation's history and identity. And
Whereas the 2024 National Theme Observance is African Americans in the Arts. And
whereas Black African American History Month grew out of the establishment in 1926 of Negro History Week by Carter G. Woodson and the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. And
whereas the North Clackamas School District is deeply committed to equity and inclusion, this stance includes a cultural and racial affirmation of our students, staff, parents, and community members who identify as Black, African American, and whereas our community is better because of the diversity of our population, and
Whereas the North Clackamas School District strives to close the equity and outcome gaps for Black African American students through policies and practices that reflect the experiences of Black African American students, ensure greater access and opportunity, and honor history, heritage, and contributions. And
Is there a motion to approve the proclamation?
Chair, I move to adopt the proclamation recognizing February 2024 as Black African American History Month in the North Clackamas School District.
Thank you. Is there a second? Excellent. Do we have any discussion?
I'd like to share, if I could, Chair Benaloga.
I believe Director Wachter had a comment. Is he
Can you hear-
able? are
can
we
you hear
able
me?
to hear him? Oh. Are there any other comments from any other board directors?
well, this is so important for our history and timely, and I appreciate, our recognition of this and the history of the struggle of so many Black African Americans. And the leadership that we've had in this district has been so important and so impactful. And today is personal for me because I was leaving, I was at Adrian C. Nelson High School, and as I was leaving, I ran into Adrian C. Nelson, who is now a federal judge. The way she interacted with our community and with the students there and how their faces lit up, seeing a living example of such a successful person. And then I also felt very privileged. I keep running into her mother, who's an amazing woman too. So there's a connection there. Amazing parent, So that was just a personal experience I had today. And I'm so grateful for the leadership that we have here in our district. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? All right, I will call for a vote. Oh, do we have? Oh, okay, we're going to try to hear Director Wachter.
Can you hear me now? No. No luck?
Oh, I see him. Good evening, Director Wachter. Now we need to see if we can hear you.
Chair, can you hear me?
Yeah, you want to read it into the record?
Can you hear me now?
okay, this is what Director Wachter would like to say. I'm joining you virtually because it has been I've been traveling on the East Coast. My travel started over a week ago in New York. I started by visiting the FDR Press Library in PK with a specific intention of viewing their new AA Civil Rights special exhibit. I learned, I lost my place. It's long. I learned a considerable amount about how in the 1930s and 40s, justice and equitable treatment for AA saw very very little progress and how economic opportunities for others were exclusionary to AAs. The Presidential Library called out specific examples where the president and his administration, operating out of ignorance, prejudice, and hate, repeatedly failed terribly. While little of substance was done to improve AAs, of substance was done to improve lives in the 30s and 40s, there were a few shining examples of tireless advocates. And without those brave advocates, the massive change in the 1960s would not have been possible. Eleanor Roosevelt, for example, found ways to bring those advocates to the table and start meaningful conversation about lynching, segregation, the vote, and fair, non-discriminatory government programs, although none were even close to solved. She often said, one person can do this work alone. We need to build community. We need to go to on the door block by community, and get people with the movement. It's not enough just to speak about. We have to do something about it. From the Presidential Library, I spent several days walking in New York City, getting 20,000 steps a day, and taking in many of the typical sights. Liberty Island was specifically moving, giving the national significance of France's iconic gift to celebrate American liberty and honor the assassinated President Lincoln. The interpretive courageous by asking visitors to consider what is liberty, what is freedom, and how fully could African Americans and other people of color live into it. Then and now. One of my favorite quotes is from Maya Angelou, poet and civil rights activist. Do the best you can until you know better. Then, when you know better, do better. For too long, the best America could do was far too good enough. Today, the important work of civil rights is largely over, but I believe we can still find ways to do better. At North Clackamas School District, we are learning and discovering ways that we can do better by all our students, because each one of them counts. Personally, I am thrilled that our school district is leading in this space of doing better and approaching public education with equity lens, so we can finally close the educational equity and outcome gaps for Black African American students, while embracing the experiences of Black African American students, ensuring greater access and opportunity, while honoring their history, heritage, and contributions. So as we consider this proclamation to honor the many contributions of the African Americans to our country, I'd also like to honor the great burden they've endured, their courageous and tireless vision to achieve full freedom in this country, and the understanding that there is still work yet to be done.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there any other comments?
On my last trip to DC, and just at the end of last year, I made a point to go and see the National Museum of African American History and Culture. Having seen it, it is well worth the visit. I learned a lot while I was there, and if you get a chance when you're in DC, it's a very worthwhile stop. And I learned some things that I hadn't learned in school earlier. So,
All right, thank you. Any other comments? All right, I will call for a vote on the motion. Oh, no, we still need a motion. Oh, no, we already did it. No, we did the motion. Okay. So I will call for a vote on the motion. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? All right, the motion passes. Is he a? With a vote of 7-0. All right, thank you. Now therefore be it resolved that the North Clackamas School District hereby proclaims the month of February 2024 as Black African American History Month in the North Clackamas School District, and encourage all residents to honor Black African American history and culture. Adopted this 25th day of January 2024. Next on the agenda is Public Schools Week proclamation. Director Dobson will begin reading the proclamation.
Whereas robust public schools are the bedrock of our nation's social well-being, strengthening public education, our nation is stronger, and
Whereas over 16,900 students representing a diversity of demographics are enrolled in North Clackamas School District. And
Whereas American public schools educate 9 out of 10 students. Consequently, high-quality public schools are critical to the success of America's democracy, along with the success of state, national, and global economies. And
Whereas National Public Schools Week has been scheduled for February 26th through March 1st, 2024.
Is there a motion to approve the proclamation?
I move to adopt the proclamation declaring February 26th to March 1st, 2024 as Public Schools Week in the North Clackamas School District.
Is there a second?
Bauer, second.
Is there any discussion? Do we have a comment? Do any directors have any comment?
I am a product of public schools. My whole family is, and we continue doing that. And it's the equalizer in society. We take every child, every single child, and our staff steps up to that challenge. So thank you. Where would we be without our public schools?
Director Kemp?
yeah, I've long felt, one of the basic functions of government is public education. And I feel really strongly about that's one of the reasons I wanted to run for school board. Without public education, I mean, everybody relies on an educated population, and we wouldn't be the country we are without it. We can be better, but public education is a strong foundation the country's built on, has been for a long time.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right, I will call for a vote on the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? And the motion passes. We're just seeing if we can get Director Walker's vote. All right, with this, I was almost said score, with a vote of 7-0. Not a score, not a score. All right, thank you. Now therefore be it resolved that the North Clackamas School District Board of Directors proclaims the week of February 26th to March 1st, 2024 as Public Schools Week in the North Clackamas School District. Thank you so much. Next is on the agenda is the North Clackamas Education Association featured educator. I welcome NCEA Vice President Michelle Arco. Welcome.
Good evening, board. Tonight, I have the privilege of honoring our December and January featured educator, Abby Dankoff, 4th grade teacher at Happy Valley Elementary School. Here is what her nominating coworker had to say about her. Abby reminds me daily of what a great teacher can do for a child, for a class, and for a school. Her classroom is one where I wish my own children could spend a year basking in her love, respect, and high expectations. Abby embodies collective action. She is one of our union leaders and takes this role seriously and shares her time and information generously with our staff. She supports our student leadership group, nurturing a spirit of collective action for her students as well. Abby is an expert collaborator. We share many students, and the work between her general education classroom and the Learning Center feels smooth and natural. Most importantly, her students know that they are valued members of her classroom community. Their strengths and gifts are both valued and celebrated. Their needs are supported in the most natural and seamless ways. She also collaborates with families in a graceful, generous, and respectful manner. They trust her and value the hard work that is done in that classroom. She demonstrates integrity and professionalism and excellent judgment and discretion. She is fun-loving and silly, while still maintaining a professional and goal-oriented atmosphere. She exudes both confidence in her skills as an educator and modesty despite her exceptional classroom practice. She's dedicated to social justice. Her classroom is full of evidence of this, from the artwork on the walls to the charts documenting discussions that the class has had to the books on the shelves. Her students are constantly engaged in deep conversations about right and wrong, justice and injustice, rights and responsibilities. Her students feel empowered to speak up and she ensures that their voices are valued, respected, and heard. Now I'd like to invite her to speak to you about her work here in North Clackamas School District.
Oh, that was the first time I was hearing that. Hello?
I think, yeah, there you go.
Is that better? Okay, hi, I'm Abby. That was very kind. That was one of our learning specialists' words, and she, I think, the highest of her. So that's great. Thank you guys for having me. It's a great honor to be here and represent the staff and community of Happy Valley. I'm lucky enough work alongside a passionate, competent, and collaborative group of teachers and staff and faculty. And we are lucky enough to reach the students of Happy Valley from kindergarten through fifth. Elementary education, as in all education, is really a team effort. So I'm only here as a representative of the greater team, including Katie, who wrote that. Happy Valley is the fourth school that I've taught at over the course of my teaching career. I've worked with different populations, different class and school sizes, different access to opportunity, different levels of community engagement, and I believe I have a decent measure of a wide range of schools from across the country. So that's why I can say without hesitation that our school district is lucky enough to employ the best educators I've ever had the pleasure to work with. Every student-facing employee of this district is here because they're passionate about helping students thrive. They put in countless hours, which we all know extend well beyond the contract, to plan, prepare, and perfect their craft. They're experts in what they do and should be treated and seen as such. I'd like to say thank you, guys, on behalf of everyone at Happy Valley. Thank you for this honor, and we're lucky to have you as our board. So thanks. Thank you, guys.
Does any director have any comments? Before, before they sneak out?
There's no camera facing.
Any comments for Abby? Yes, Director Dobson.
I just want to say thank you. And I can certainly get the sense from both your words and the words of your colleague that you are really important to the kids that you teach. And that's what matters the most to us, that the teachers in the North Clackamas School District have a positive impact on the lives of the students they touch. And it's clear that you do. So thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments? And I just also want to say congratulations. And it's such wonderful work, really, to work, but it's challenging to work in an elementary school. And we're excited and just so proud of all the teachers that we have and all the students that truly uplift each other and take care of one another. And I love to hear what a community Happy Valley Elementary is for you and for your students. And we congratulate you on your honor tonight. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
Next on the agenda is Early Literacy Success Grant discussion. I welcome Executive Director of Elementary Programs, Patricia Ahrens, who will introduce our guests. Welcome.
Good evening, directors. Tonight, we bring to you the Early Literacy Success Grant for discussion. While this work is very visible in elementary programs, it is a group effort from multiple departments. I'm joined by Jim Burkert, our early learning coordinator, Jen Dovkil-Tao, Director of Student and Family Services and Integrated Programs, and Diana Nye, Associate Director from Teaching, Learning, and Professional Development Department. And they all have been very incredibly important in bringing this work together. So we are very excited to present that to you. Can you click next? Other way? No. Yeah, thank you. So tonight we will be sharing with you all the elements of the proposal of the grant. We'll talk about how it aligns with our strategic plan and what considerations we're taking into account. So the grant matches what is allowable and what is required. We will also share with you how the process came to life, and we will present to you what areas are included in the grant, such as instructional materials, professional development, coaching, tutoring, family engagement, and extended learning. And at the same time, we will show you what will be the outcomes and the investments of those outcomes. You'll see how we design a tier support approach. And finally, we will review the significant investment that our district is making in early literacy and how it reflects throughout all of our programs. So as we delve into the details of this grant, I would say that it aligns perfectly with our strategic plan, emphasizing our commitment to early literacy and again, outlining all the requirements from the grant. For example, under student experience and success, the first 3 bullet points speak directly to our efforts to strengthen and improve instructional and assessment practices, to ensure that teaching and learning are varied and responsive to student learning needs, and also to provide frequent actionable feedback to students that leads to growth and proficiency.
There we go. All right, good evening. So as with many of our grants, we work within the process developed by the Oregon Department of Education, and there are requirements with those grants, and we view those requirements also as opportunities. So what you see here are both opportunities for our students and our teachers and our staff, as well as requirements of the grant. So this is a pre-kindergarten through 3rd grade literacy focus. That's the purpose of the grant. We are, however, able to allocate 20% of the funds for 4th and 5th grade students. And so that's exciting, and we really view that as an opportunity for us. The materials need to be aligned with the science of reading. And we are lucky to already have many of those materials within our possession. And this is just another opportunity that we have to go further with those. A big emphasis is being put on professional development and coaching for our teachers. I believe this was really brought out recently at a school board convention. Jen and I were talking about this was a big piece of discussion there. And then also we are required to have a plan for high dosage tutoring and extended learning as part of our plan. There's definitely reporting requirements. We'll have very specific assessment data that we're looking at throughout the process. Looking at the numbers of teachers that are participating in our professional development and the type of professional development that they're participating in. And then again, the students who participate in extended learning and high dosage tutoring will be looking critically at outcomes for those students. As part of our plan development, we went through a rigorous process of reviewing our core materials and instructional practices currently in place. We also really dug into what interventions we have in place and what types of extended learning we have, and then we dreamt from there as to what possibilities there were. We also used the early literacy playbook and the Oregon Department of Education early literacy framework that they've provided for us. And as we tend to do in North Clackamas, we definitely wanted to engage our community. So we took time through the integrated process to do that and talk to families in depth about their experiences with their young students in the area of literacy. We did empathy interviews with many families and just listened to what they had to say about their experience and their child's experience. We had multiple staff surveys from across the district that included our English learning, our ELD department, English learner development department, our special education department, and then our teachers. We participate in the Early Learning Hub in Clackamas County, so we were able to hear what colleagues from around the county were having to say about early literacy in not just other schools, but in other areas that support our students. And Stanford Children has provided us with some great information on supporting students and really how to focus our grant as we were writing it. And then, of course, just the wonderful team that elementary programs put together to do this work.
All right. So currently 42% of our third grade students are proficient according to the Oregon State Assessment. I'll be louder. And the overarching goal of the Early Literacy Success Grant is to increase reading, on grade level reading by third grade, and all the while significantly closing the opportunity gap. In North Clackamas, we're going to spend our first biennium looking at our data and what's our baseline data and determine what we're going to move, what we need, what our plan is to move forward. The growth will be aligned to the long-range goals of the student investment account, and in the second biennium, we will determine our goals. So you can see this is our estimated investment, so of how the funds will use. Note that the early learning, another way to say that, is summer school opportunities will be continued to be supported by Title I funds. That's approximately $210,000 for the first biennium. Our summer school program will align to the goals of the Early Literacy Success Grant and will be offered to schools receiving some Title I funds.
All right. In your board packet, you have access to an overview outlining the investments and their outcomes. The next set of slides will go over these investment areas. In addition, we would like to draw your attention to the key investments column. Each investment is labeled as all schools, focal schools, and target schools. The following slides will outline the differentiation and will be summarized again in the end. So our first allowable investment is in the science of reading aligned instructional materials. As Jen mentioned, over the past 2 years, we've had great investments in our core materials and making sure those were aligned to science of reading practices. And also the Oregon Department of Education Early Literacy Framework that Jen also mentioned. The grant will allow us to further support our instructional efforts with both an online adaptive foundational skills curriculum and research-aligned reading intervention materials, which will support acceleration for our striving readers. In addition, we're eager to expand our previous investment in K-2 high interest and culturally relevant classroom library books to our 3rd through 5th grade classrooms. These 3 investments will increase differentiated support for all of our students in foundational skills, provide acceleration of reading proficiency for striving readers, and increase reading engagement. As Jen mentioned again, we're just going back and forth here. I was fortunate enough to sit alongside many of you in November at the Oregon School Board Association conference, where we learned about the goals and priorities of the Early Literacy Success Grant. Because of this, it will come as no surprise that we will use this opportunity to enhance our professional development and coaching support to teachers, as we all know that this continually shows to have the highest impact on student learning. The grant funds will allow us to further professional learning on core instruction and elevate our focus on small group targeted support for all students. In addition, we will expand our K-2 district literacy specialist guidance to 3rd through 5th grade, as many of our students continue to need support with foundational literacy skills in the upper grades. Target schools will also have a dedicated K-3 literacy coach to provide ongoing and embedded coaching and feedback for classroom teacher instruction. High dosage tutoring is another priority outlined within the grant guidelines. Research confirms that high dosage tutoring provided within the school day, aligned to core instruction, and delivered by highly trained staff is a huge accelerator for our striving readers. So to that end, this grant will provide all schools with additional paraeducator support for first grade, allowing classroom teachers to spend additional time engaged in targeted small group instruction. Focal and target schools will have the support extended to second and third grade. And target schools will have more intensified support for striving readers, utilizing a K-3 reading specialist who will provide aligned small group and high dosage tutoring within the school day, as we mentioned. As we discussed in October during the early learning presentation, building bridges with our families to strengthen homeschool connection and extend that learning for our students is essential. Our goal is for all schools to further develop the materials and guidance for families supporting literacy learning at home, as well as increased shared learning opportunities between school staff and families. And our target schools will begin offering additional literacy specific check-ins with many families to communicate student goals and progress along the learning journey. Finally, this graphic provides a summary of how our investments will be differentiated to allow for varying degrees of support and focus. As you can see, allowable investments have representation in all of our elementary schools. In our focal and target schools, this grant will allow us to deepen our professional learning and coaching and provide increased access to high dosage tutoring.
So this grant gives us another opportunity to invest in early literacy and to braid funds where we're already doing so. So the slide outlines where we're already funding some of these different initiatives. And so we'll braid funds with this particular grant, in addition to what we're already doing with our federal title grants and with our student investment account. So both of those are, as you can see here, really focusing on ongoing professional development, classroom libraries, Title I summer school for our Title I schools. And we also have been investing with emergency relief funds, our ESSER funds, additional paraeducator supports for our students, particularly around the area of literacy. And then, of course, there's our general funds. And as you can see here, that's where our Science of Reading aligned adoption curriculum resources come from. So this is, as you know, as Jen mentioned, not the only area of funding for early literacy, and really gives us an opportunity to look at where we already have investments and how we can elevate those investments. And with that, we would welcome any questions that you might have of us.
Thank you. Thank you so much, directors. Where are we? Questions? Director McVeigh.
Oh, thank you. Is it a 2 or a 3-year grant, and is it opportunity for to be renewable?
Oh, go ahead. Oh, this one is a 2-year grant. This is actually year 1. So this is the year 1 of the first biennium, and then it is we will be able to reapply for the next biennium as well. So right now it's slated for 4 years, but this is currently year 1.
And then we set up our own targets for success with the state.
The state's not asking us to create specific targets with the grant until the second biennium. And that's exactly what Diana was talking about. They're giving us some time to get some baseline data with our growth assessments. We, of course, have internal goals that we're working on all the time, but the grant just didn't require us to make a goal specific to this grant until the second biennium.
Thanks.
Thank you. Director Dobson.
Thank you. This is very exciting. I wanted to ask if you're facing any workforce issues in rolling out this plan. I know, specifically that the high dosage tutoring requires people. So I wanted to just see, how that's going. And then as a follow-up, find out in particular if you're moving some paraeducators over to the literacy tutoring, or if you're bringing in new ones, and if so, what kind of professional development plans you have for them.
Well, one thing I can say about the high dosage tutoring and the reading specialists is that because we started this work several years ago in our district with our literacy cohort and our emergent literacy specialists, we have been building literacy leaders within our own teachers. And so that's really exciting because I would say probably 2 years ago, we may be concerned about filling some of those positions as reading specialists and reading coaches, but they will be highly sought after positions. And I believe that we have built the capacity within our own teacher leaders. So that's really exciting. And it's such an opportunity for those teacher leaders to step up into those roles. Around the para educators, there's always shifts that happen when roles change and when priorities change. I don't see this increasing the need for additional para educators at this time because there will be different shifts happening throughout the system, but I would let my colleagues answer that if they had a better answer for that.
All right, thank you. Director Way, Vice Chair Way,
Oh,
sorry.
thank you. Thank you for this. I think this is also just very exciting. And, for me on a personal note, I started learning English when I was in second grade. And so I would not be here if it wasn't for obviously teachers and, folks and flashcards and just all the things that really, brought me here. So I have a couple questions. So one could be, it's just very simple, but there's obviously a lot of metrics, a lot of things that we're measuring through this grant. And so my first question is around what are we using as our measurement of success? Obviously we want to track individual students' performance and how they're progressing maybe year to year. I'm just making that assumption, but are we getting to that granular level of detail where we can track each student and look at, right, a year from now, 2 years from now, how they're doing? And then the second question would be around that just kind of larger shift that we're trying to make in the district around all of these goals.
So this year we rolled out a new assessment program called FastBridge, and that is our screener for a district that we give 3 times a year to track student data. It also has more, you can use it more frequently, but that's what we're at the minimum for each student, what we're using. And I think that's your overarching assessment. And then we have several assessments when we know that a student needs help in this area, then we have a slew of assessments that we use to assess where students really are at and what their next is. I think the other assessment we'll be using because you never want to rely on one assessment, but multiple assessments. So we also have the Oregon State assessment, the Smart Balance assessment that we'll be looking at, as well as our curriculum-based classroom measurements.
Thank you. And I think just a comment, and I think that parent-family engagement piece that is also in here is so important because when, parents are starting to see their child's grade level, rising or even just surpassing, maybe their own expectations, I think that's where it becomes so exciting and that student can continue to get the support that they need at home. So, I'm hoping that obviously that work and that collaboration with families and parents can continue too.
Oh, yes, Director Wachter has a question.
Okay, on behalf of Director
comment.
Wachter, this first question is, I really appreciate this presentation and all supporting materials. I'm interested in learning about how we can be assured that the 2.4 million grant will reach students who most need the support. How are the targets and focus schools determined?
Well, the target and focal schools, that's a great question because that's exactly why we have target and focal schools, right? We haven't determined which schools they are yet, but we have thought about the criteria for those schools. And one of those will be student demographics. We'll look at student reading proficiency levels and reading growth. We will be looking at how close the classroom teachers are to implementing our instructional framework right now that we've been working through. We'll be looking at leadership. We will be looking at so many different factors to determine this. But one of the main goals of this grant is to close our opportunity gap. So that is exactly why we wanted to differentiate our resources and really think deeply about what schools are ready to take this work on and where we can best and most efficiently and effectively close the opportunity gap in the most high impact way that we can.
And then the second question he has is, I read how the ODE Smart Sheet grant language called out families as students' primary educators, calling family engagement as pivotal. I then noted the program financial emphasis is lightest in the area for a total of $16,000. Can you help me understand if we are leveraging family enough through the design of the grants program, or are there other braided funds that support more family engagement?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. We actually have a very heavy emphasis on family engagement. I think I would say we do braid funds in that area. Title I, federal funding through Title I specifically calls out that we have to set aside 1% of our overall allocation, Title I allocation to family engagement as a district. And each school, we require our schools to set aside between 3 and 5% of their allocation. And that will get braided with the 16,000 that you see on here. In addition, we have funds set aside through our student investment account for continued family engagement. Particularly, we call out our focal students and their families in that area. And so families who've historically been marginalized are called out in the student investment account. So we do anticipate adding considerably more than the $16,000 through our braided funding sources.
All right. Director Bauer.
Thank you for all the work on this grant. I mean, it's just amazing. And as I read it and I was getting more educated, I was just, the whole science of reading and the high dosage tutoring is great. The multi-curriculum, the honoring families and your family engagement is it's so thoughtful. It's so comprehensive. So I appreciate that. And it blew me away too about how important, it's so important, but it's so involved and so much thought has gone into this. And you're asking our teachers to really step up. I mean, it's such an important job. So thank you for all of that. Most of my questions have been answered, but a little bit of follow-up on, professional development is throughout the year. So, and you're evaluating, that as you go along. I'm sure you do that with most programs. So it's not all at the beginning of the year and as you go through. Is that correct?
Correct. And so we have 3 or 4 district-wide days where that's throughout the year that we have professional development. On top of that, building base, we also have instructional coaches in every building right now. And one way that we are trying to push out professional development is to train our coaches to work alongside teachers, either in planning, to look at data, in lesson studies, to teach alongside, model, all the aspects or avenues to support teachers to move the work forward.
Great. And then I know you have involved, early learning in this. And also I loved the idea of the caregivers too, because a lot of our children, spend time with caregivers. Involving how they can help too is great. One follow-up on the criteria for the focal and the target. Once you determine those, then your assessments will look at those groupings specifically too, then to see if the improvement is happening. I assume.
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
Okay.
absolutely. I mean, we are very eager to see what these investments and these intensified investments that will help our literacy data, our reading proficiency of our students. And so we're very much going to be holding close to the data at those schools, but also across all of our schools. We really believe that this plan provides support for schools, all the schools and all of our classrooms and our teachers and our students, just with more intensified support at some specific focal schools and target schools.
Okay, so but remind me, and for our community listening, you did adopt some curriculum a year or 2 ago, and you do have some baseline that shows there are some improvements that you've added to that. So that's exciting, but then you're expecting even more baseline and moving up from there.
Yeah, as Diana said, 42% of our students, right? Third grade students were reading on grade level. And we did see some amazing results over the last 2 years using our early literacy assessment, which was Dibbles and is now FastBridge. 12% gains is pretty huge. 1 to 2% is statistically significant, and 12% is pretty amazing. So we're really just excited to use this grant to bolster what we've already started. And so it's just such an opportunity for our students and our teachers. And we're just thrilled for this opportunity and to just come alongside the work that we've been doing and fill in some gaps and holes where we know we need some additional support.
Great. Thank you for all your work.
I have a question.
Thank you. Director McVeigh, did you have another question?
I do. So 5 schools will be focal and 2 will be target. Is that correct? So to get high dosage tutoring, I would need to be in a target school. Is that correct? Or would I be able to get that in any school?
So the criteria for high dosage tutoring is sort of it is in flux right now with Oregon Department of Education. They had some guidelines in the grant documentation, but they're right now working on the rules for the second biennium about what qualifies for high dosage tutoring. So in our focal schools, all of our schools, there are some aspects of high dosage tutoring happening right now. We have students in small intervention groups, sometimes in tier 3 or tier 2 intervention groups that fits the current criteria for high dosage tutoring. And with that additional paraeducator support within the first and second and third grade classrooms, that'll free up the classroom teacher to be able to pull more targeted small groups that technically would fit in the high dosage tutoring category at this point. We're not sure what those rules will be
Not
for the
there yet.
second biennium, but we just intensified that for our target schools, again, so we can hold close to that data to really see if this is making the impact before we make our decisions and our action plan for the second biennium. So some of this, because we are already in year 1, we are, while we're holding close to the research about what is effective, we're also going to hold close to the data to see what actually worked, right? We have a pretty good idea that it will, and yet we still really want to make sure that we're watching that so that we can make really informed decisions about how we move forward.
Thank you. I appreciate that because I'm all for family engagement. You could have sent all the materials home with me. And my mom was at work at night, so there was no family engagement. So, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. Gilligan's Island was too important.
All right. Thank you, Director Kemp.
Yeah, just a question. I heard you say earlier that the family engagement, there's more money that comes out of the student investment account. And on that braided funding investment that supports early literacy, that slide, I don't see family engagement listed, itemized under those items. Is it underneath one of the categories that are listed here?
Which slide? I'm trying to.
It's page 38 in the board book. Yeah, so that center slide,
Oh, okay. Let me.
or the center grouping in that previous page, that was just that one. Oh, okay. I guess it depends on, yeah.
So our goals for family engagement are, according to this line item, are on the, maybe I should go to the slide. Would that be helpful? Well, is this the slide you're talking about?
Well, no, I thought it was related to the question that Glenn had about the $16,000 being allocated, but you said there were other braided investments,
Yeah.
money going into that. And that's where I was, when I was looking at that slide in the center section, I didn't see family engagement there. I was just wondering if it's buried under one of those other headings.
It's not specifically called out in what you see here.
Okay.
But as a requirement of the student investment account, it is required that we set aside funds for ongoing student
That's
family
the percentage you were
engagement.
talking about earlier.
The percentage I was talking about is actually federal grants, and that's Title I, and that's a requirement of the federal grant program. And then the student investment account is Oregon State, and they require it. They don't require a certain percentage by any means, but it is a requirement that we have ongoing, continuous family engagement,
Thank you.
and that's K-12.
All right. Are there any other questions? All right, Director Dobson.
Thank you for taking the time to educate us on everything that you've been doing. And I'm gonna fumble my way through this question. Please forgive me if it's clumsy. I was just trying to think of a way to ask about the kids that are still left behind. So we get this money and we have these like incredible experts in, the science of education who are determining how we're going to use the money, and the percentage of, our readers who are on target for their grade level is going up. But I'm wondering if there's a mechanism in there to track who is still being left behind, and why, like if they're not responding to this particular program, or they're hungry. Like every longitudinal study ever done shows that, these kids don't learn well when they don't get enough to eat. So, so I just was wondering if there's a way to like connect the data that you're gathering, and target, the kids who aren't making the progress that we'd like to see.
I can talk a little bit about that. We, in all of our schools, we have we follow the MTSS system, where we are looking at each student and making sure that they are getting what they need to like oversimplify the process right here. And there's an area we look at of SEL, like, are you getting your needs met? Are you feeling like you have friends? Do you feel like, have you eaten? And then then we look at academics like math and reading and ELA. And so in that process, we look at every student and see if they are making growth. And if you're not making growth, what can we do? It's a team of people who support to just really try and narrow down like what's going on? Like how can we help you? And we'll try interventions and we'll track if they don't work, then we'll use something different. And if that doesn't work, then we'll use something different. And I'm oversimplifying a very complicated process, but that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to, bring up how important I feel like it is to make sure that, all of this really valuable data that you're collecting gets, integrated all the way down the line, not just to show how well we're doing, but also to help determine, maybe what we still need to work on. So thank you.
All right, thank you. I just have, thank you. And yes, I'm so excited. I know that we went to, we went to this at OSBA, and it's just fascinating and it's wonderful and it's exciting to be able to move forward and to have the resources. I had just a couple of quick questions. In the materials key investment, there's mentioned of online intervention. Why did we decide to do online intervention? What is that?
Talking about the online adaptive foundational skills. Is that the one you're speaking of?
Well, it just said in the
Yeah,
in the materials slide.
So that's Core 5, or as some people know it as Lexia. That's an online adaptive curriculum. Basically, that is just sort of, you've heard of Dreambox, right? So this is Dreambox for foundational skills and literacy. So students go in, they take an assessment, they get a sense of where they are with their foundational skills, all the way from starting with letter sound to morphology. So really understanding where the roots of words come from, Greek and Latin, and understanding how they come together to understand the meaning of a word. So the reason I bring that up is because it's differentiated and it can extend some students in their learning around foundational skills, but it also can support other students who may have some lagging skills that need to be brought up to speed. This is going to be part of our literacy block. It's another tool in the kit for our teachers. It also will provide us with reports to, again, just like Diana said, we don't want to look at just one piece of data, right? We've got FastBridge, we have the diagnostic assessments that we're using in the classroom, and now we have another tool to say, what is Core 5, what is Lexia telling us that the student may need additional support at? So we're able to triangulate, that's a fancy word that we like to say, which basically means look at multiple pieces of data to ensure that we know what students need. And then it also shares with us some lesson plans for, we talked about paraeducator support. It will share lesson plans that target that student's need. We could group students that way, and we have a turnkey resource right there to provide that instruction. So is that helpful to understand?
Yeah, thank you. I was just curious what we were doing there. And can you, as far as the literacy coaches, is this going to be an additional person, or are we adding on to a staff member that's already there? Or is this an additional full-time FTE, like another person in the building?
It's an additional person that is specific to K-3 literacy. As you know, we're going to be not shifting gears, but adding on to our repertoire of professional development next year with math, right? And so a large focus of our current instructional coaches will be focusing on this new math curriculum and the shifts in practices that we want to see. I'll keep looking to Diana because you may want to add around this. And so again, in those target schools, we still have work to do in our core instruction, right? Especially in schools with, that large opportunity gap that we talked about, right? We really have to have strong core instructional practices to ensure all students are getting what they need. So yes, this will be specific to K-3 instructional coaching at those 2 target schools, where we'll be keeping tabs on the data to ensure that this is really proving to be effective for students.
Right, because the data so far is showing that those literacy coaches are the biggest bang for our buck, right? That's where we're really getting the momentum and getting the forward motion with our kids. So, and our staff, it's exciting, and I'm excited to see what the data shows after we've been able to implement this. Thank you so much. Any other questions? All right, thank you. Thank you so much. Excellent presentation. Next on the agenda is the 2022-23 District Financial Audit Report. I welcome Executive Director of Finance and Business Services, Matt McCara.
Good evening. Tonight, I present the annual comprehensive financial report for the fiscal year ended June 30, 2023. I'm pleased to be joined by Connor Delaney, manager with Polly Rogers & Co., our auditors. First, I would like to acknowledge the hard work of our business services team, especially Donna Burke and the accounting team of Ivan Aguilar, Sarah Bailey, and Casey Schroeder for their efforts to complete the act for an audit successfully. We will again be applying for the ASBO Financial Achievement Award. We had a successful audit and received an unmodified opinion from Polly Rogers. The district was in compliance with governmental accounting standards as required by state regulation. The district was also in compliance with regulations for federal programs. As noted in the report to the board of directors from the audit firm, all significant transactions have been recognized in the proper period. There were no corrected or uncorrected misstatements during the audit, and there were no disagreements between management and the auditors. Are there any questions for either myself or Connor?
Directors, do we have any questions on this very, very long report from literally 133-page financial report, which, I mean, there's some important stuff in there. But what questions or comments do we have? Director Bauer?
Well, thank you again for this successful report. And what are the you're going to apply for this award again, and explain how that affects our
The, so it's the Association of School Business Officials, ASBO. They have a program where there are certain standards for financial presentation in the comprehensive, the annual comprehensive financial report. Our document, the last several, as far back as I know, we've submitted for that award and received it. Generally, it can have benefits in terms of it's something that may be looked at if you go out for a bond or something, or credit rating or other things like that.
Mhm. And it has in the past. So
Yes.
congratulations. And it makes a huge difference financially. And thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other, Director McVeigh?
Just a quick question. I looked through it and there's a lot here. Achilles heel has been all the schools having their own accounts in the past. It took a while to clean them up. We were forcing bookkeepers to be CPAs. Has that all been cleaned up and as much as can be, or is there still work to be done?
I think there's always room for process improvements. But I'll say I believe what you're referring to has probably been cleaned up because it's not something that's ever come to my
Okay.
attention.
All the student funds at different high
There's-
schools, and
Yeah,
it was a
there-
nightmare.
Yeah, there's always room for process improvements, but I don't believe that, I haven't heard anything.
Okay. Well, it's not noted here.
about
That's
what
why I was
you're-
scouring this. So
Yeah.
it looks
I could speak to that real quick. I think they're probably referring to the fact that the schools, it used to be where they actually had their own specific general ledgers as well. They had their own separate financial statements that they would do, and then it would all get rolled up into the district wide. But now it's all linked in with the school district's Infinite Vision's general ledger. So it's definitely much more streamlined than it used to be.
All right, thank you. Any other comments or questions? I did just want to mention that, in the big piece in the end is that it says there's no material weaknesses identified, no deficiencies, no non-compliance materials. And I just think just bodes well and just says so much about our financial department. And we want to thank you for, it's a very big report, but it's also a very big undertaking to be financially transparent and to be good stewards of our community's money. So we appreciate it.
Absolutely. And on behalf of the business services team, thank you. I'm the one here doing the presentation, but the good work is really done by them. So they're the ones who are due the credit.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank them all for us then.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Next on the agenda is the Clean School Bus Rebate Program Report. I welcome Assistant Superintendent of Operations, Cindy Deschen.
Thank you. This is a report. We're not asking any action to be taken tonight. It's an exciting opportunity to share with you that the Environmental Protection Agency is providing a clean school bus rebate program. This will prepay for hopefully our next set of vehicles that we add to our transportation fleet, specifically our student transportation fleet. These are for alternative fuel sources. We continue to look at whether that's electrified buses or we currently have some propane buses. I'm always trying to provide more clean, fuel-efficient vehicles. I do have our Director of Transportation here, Kathy Calkins, is with us this evening. Should you have specific questions, this is just informing you that we're going to go out for this grant. Should we receive it, or we will come back to you with some actual requests to purchase the vehicles. But it's not always an opportunity for us that we get some money coming our way. So we thought it'd be important to share that with you and provide you that information before we go out to the purchase. So that's all there is, but we're happy to address questions.
All right. Does anyone have any questions or comments about this rebate program? Director Bauer.
So it said 500 million is available. Is that a national grant?
I'm asking Kathy to come on up to the table. She's been in contact with them mostly.
Thank you for being here, Kathy. You waited till the very end too.
The 500 million, the national
I
number.
believe it's national, yes.
Oh,
Push the
okay.
button.
And how much are we going to ask for?
Um,
Oh, sure, why not?
$500 million?
I'm looking at what we have in our account now to purchase buses. And so it looks like possibly 3 to 6 buses. They don't actually approve until April. And that's when I'm going to look into our account and see how many we have. So I'd like to get as many as I can on this grant. It's $45,000 per bus, and that's a significant savings.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a follow-up question. And sorry if I don't know this, but so we don't have battery electric.
We don't have
buses
battery
right now.
electric, no.
Is that something that we're considering when we're applying for this grant?
I'm going to be getting propane at this time. The electric buses on average get about 80 to 120 miles, and that depends on weather and how long they're going to use their heaters for and going up hills and things like that. I'm very excited about the propane because they do go farther. We can use them on trips. We will be using renewable propane in these buses, which is even puts out less carbon emissions than propane does, and is comparable to electric. And I'm still doing research on that, but it's hard to find research. There's people are on either the electric side of the fence or the propane side of the fence, and trying to find the research that somebody has compares them in a fair way. It's difficult to find, but
Thank you.
I will find it.
Our buses average, I think, over 90 miles per day typically
yeah,
on any
yeah.
given route. So just on one charge, we'd already be out for a typical route. So right now, they don't meet our needs, but I know Kathy every single year evaluates what the current technology is allowing us to do.
Thank you. Yeah, and it would also be helpful if there are other, I'm sure, Oregon school districts who are applying, and is also if any one of them have also explored the electric route. I know it's probably not feasible now because of the reasons you cited, but I think just with addressing climate change, right, like doing all that we can to cut out emissions in future years would be really important for us to consider.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Director Kemp?
Yeah, I was curious on with the propane buses, do they have a range long enough that you could use them on longer field trips where the kids are traveling a long distance? Is that a practical use of those or not?
It is. They'll go about 400 miles on a tank.
Oh.
So yeah.
And with the renewable propane, is that readily, you say if they were traveling down the valley or something, can you mix that, or do you have to, once it's renewable propane, do you have to keep using that?
No. Right now we're using a similar product for our diesel, which is the renewable diesel, which is, and I believe Kathy TriMet is using that. So I did a lot of my research from TriMet, and they are 70% cleaner than running diesel. That's 70% cleaner than running diesel. The renewable propane, and I can't give you the numbers, but it is cleaner than running the propane itself.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Yes.
We have a diversified fleet, I think is what Kathy's saying, so that depending on the trip, we can use whatever resource we need to.
Yeah.
All right, excellent. Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments about the buses? All right, thank you so much. We've come to that time of the evening where we are about to adjourn. So I just want to share a thought with you from Vernon Jordan. He's a civil rights advocate and a businessman. You are where you are today because you stand on somebody's shoulders. And wherever you are heading, you cannot get there by yourself. If you stand on the shoulders of others, you have a reciprocal responsibility to live your life so that others may stand on your shoulders. It's the quid pro quo of life. We exist temporarily through what we take, but we live forever through what we give. So thank you all so much. We are adjourned at 7:54 p.m.